tweet out. Okay.
Look, we live.
We are live. We are live. Let's see if I can get the there's the link. Copy. And then copy there. Whoops, I spelled it wrong. White Sox. The Bears. Amsterdam. Damn, Amsterdam. All right.
Damn.
Let's go. MLB playoffs? Or is it postseason? What's the big hashtag? Postseason?
Postseason, I believe.
MLB playoffs. All right. Bam. All right. And we're ready to go.
Yump, it's on me this time. Yump, it's on me, not on Fids. I had a little technical difficulty.
Blame me, Yumper. Pay attention in your class. We kidding. You ain't got no class.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
Perhaps call me sometime when you have no class.
Yep.
One of the best lines from Back to School.
There it was. Okay, that's applause. Laughter. Okay, so laughter at the time. I gotta mark these things. I got all these sound effects. Yeah. I don't know what the hell that is, but it's like every time the Bears offense.
That's probably when Yump's telling a story and you're like, get to the end already.
Exactly. All right, here we go. In 5, 4, 3.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
It's time for The Tainted Glove, starring your favorite man of questionable character, Aloha Mr. Hand.
Hey, bud, let's party.
And the Holy Reverend K. Fitz himself. It's go time, so grab a beer, grab a bite, and settle in. It's time for The Tainted Glove.
Aloha, and welcome to this week's edition of The Tainted Glove. I am one of your co-hosts, Aloha Mr. Han, a.k.a. the man of notorious and questionable character. Along with me on this fine Monday, October 17th, is my partner, the wonderful and talented and deified Reverend K. Fids. With that, K. Fids, take it away.
How we doing, everybody? Thanks for joining us tonight. Yeah, we got it's been a couple weeks now, so we're back for our little if you guys didn't notice the pattern, by the way, it's us one week and then Yumper and Swo the next week and so on and so on. So I actually just inadvertently moved my my rundown onto the other monitor that is actually turned off but welcome. Glad you guys can join us. You guys are keeping me busy and keeping me company. My fiance is currently in Italy right now. And so I've been alone at the house. Me and the pup, the old man, the old Kerouac puppy, have been hanging out at the house quite a bit, and we're sad and lonely. So thank goodness we get a chance to talk some baseball, talk a little football, talk a little bit of movies, and whatever else probably pops up. But thank you guys for joining us. I know it's Monday night, and I know that you got the White Sox. Nope, the White Sox.
We have to talk football.
Cubs are in the postseason. Oh, wait, nope, either in the postseason. So these playoffs really are just for entertainment value, kind of like playing slot machines on your cell phone for free. So welcome, though. And so we're going to get down to it. We're going to start off with the White Sox and talk about the managerial search. And then Pete's going to enlighten us on some offseason moves the White Sox, he believes the White Sox need to make to help us help the White Sox get back to where they need to be as far as this window is concerned of competition. We're going to talk about the news coming out about Jose Abreu, the MVP, the White Sox core personality, and possibly the free agency and where he may end up. Talk about the Cubs hinting at a busy offseason. Talking about the Bears. Oh, wait, they don't get that. This is what the Bears get. Every time the Bears offense takes the field, we get. Then we're going to talk a little movies, talk about Amsterdam with Christian Bale, David Washington and oh goodness, I mean, there's a billion people in it. Margot Robbie, Robert De Niro, etc. We'll talk about that here in a little bit too, and then we might touch on the Rings of Power.
Margot Robbie,
yeah, who's insanely gorgeous
Yeah.
in this film. So with that, let's turn it on over to you to Pete. Let's get started right out of the gate. The White Sox have, they announced that Tony La Russa is moving on. They, Rick Hahn, your best pal, he's sticking around. So obviously the White Sox feel like he did a hell of a job keeping this White Sox franchise moving forward during their competitive window. So for you, with the White Sox managerial search, tons of names have been thrown out there. Some obviously low-hanging fruit, some of which might be some actually inventive ideas, some cool possible options. And then, of course, the ones that the meatballs are going to throw out there that I can't wait to hear your opinion on. So for you, Pete, the White Sox, they're looking for a manager. Before we get into some of the terrible suggestions, who are some names for you that you're looking at as people you're hopeful the White Sox bring in and potentially could be selected as the hire to help the White Sox get back to the postseason, maybe even consecutive years in less than 160 in 162 game seasons, as opposed to just back-to-back years with a 60 gamer. We know that didn't help the Dodgers very much when they went to the full 162 either. So 2 years in a row in a 162 would be really nice for the White Sox. So who are your picks? Who do you want? Who are your top five, even if you got them?
I don't know if I necessarily have a top five. I have like a top four, if you will. As anyone who's followed me on Twitter knows, I would love to see Eduardo Perez as a manager of this organization. I just think that his experience, he has managed before, not in a major league, but in Winter Ball Classic. Recently, he quit that position. It sounds like there was a dispute over who he wanted to manage versus who higher-ups in the Puerto Rican national team wanted to manage. He wanted Joe Espada. The higher-ups wanted Yadier Molina. Yadier Molina is the manager of the Puerto Rican team for the World Baseball Classic. So Eduardo tendered his resignation. This shows me a couple things. He knows what he's want. He's not afraid to stand up for what he believes in. I think it's a tremendous character asset in his personality. I like the experience on the national team and in Winter Ball, because if you watched Winter Ball, that is very, very serious. That is country pride on the line. They take that incredibly seriously. And anyone who can manage in that can manage in my book, because the expectations there may be more than the expectations a major league team faces in some respects. Not in all, but in some. So he would be number one on my list. I would also, one of the candidates that they have interviewed and who we are reading that they have done well, that has impressed White Sox management, I guess is the best way to put it, is Joe Espada. Now, I'm going to throw a caveat out about Joe Espada. I have no issues if Joe Espada is the manager of the White Sox.
So you like Joe Espada?
But I personally, yes, I would like to see that, because I like the tie with winning cultures. With Houston, with the Yankees, teams that, guess what, are still playing at this moment, even though one of them's in a rain delay right now, and it could be their last game of the year. But guess what? They made it farther than the White Sox did. The issue I see with Espada is he has the Astro taint, for lack of a better way to put it, on him. Yes, he was not part of the team in 2017, but he was there in 2019 when all of the wire was Jose Altuve wired? Was JJ Redick? Not JJ Redick. Who was the outfielder? Darn it, I can't think of it. But there's video of him. It looks like he's wired too. So the chairman of the board is a person who is involved with baseball at higher levels. Board of directors of the Hall of Fame. Executive committee of baseball, which I think he stepped down from, but he still has a lot of connections to it. I don't believe he was taint on him. It is the same rationale I gave for why AJ Hinch would never be the manager of the White Sox. A lot of people didn't want to listen to me when I said that. I said that ad nauseum, and guess what? AJ Hinch was never considered for the manager position of the White Sox. And you could say, yes, his name went out on the press release, his signature went out on the press release that when they announced Tony La Russa. I totally get that. But you have to understand something. Like it, don't like it, it doesn't fucking matter. Jerry Reinsdorf signs the paychecks. His say is the last say. It's the way. One thing I'm going to tell people that they need to understand. Fans get upset at the way the White Sox are run. And I get it. I totally get it. But you have to look not as a baseball team. So decisions that are made are more business driven than baseball driven. And I'll come to that. Why I say that, I will get to that. But the other candidates I would like to see, I think Ron Washington would be a great hire. Key thing I want in a managerial hire for the White Sox is someone with no attachment, no affiliation, no relationships, no nothing. I want a clean slate. I want an outsider to come in and tell these people that this is what's wrong and this is what you need to fix. That's why I think Eduardo Perez would be a great choice, because he stands for what he believes in. So if he comes in and says, you know what, you're doing this all wrong, he'll stand by his statement and he won't acquiesce.
That's fair.
My fear is that the White Sox are going to pick someone who will meet a couple of key parameters. First parameter being disaster waiting to happen. They were the coaching staff in place for the most part for Robin Ventura, for Ricky Renteria, and for Tony La Russa. They need to be gone. They don't teach fundamentals. Every year this team fundamentally is piss poor. They don't teach fundamentals. They don't know what the hell they're doing. It's almost like a country club atmosphere there. So they need to have someone who will accept. They need to have someone who wants their own coaching staff and will bring in their own coaching staff. And B, this is where I'm going to get really controversial and I'm going to piss a lot of people off. I personally think the manager decision has already been made. I think all of these interviews and everything else, to use a term that was used before, eyewash. I think it's false hustle. I think they've already made the decision, but they want to be able to say that we did an exhaustive search, high and low, and we determined that this person is the best candidate.
Please, God, don't say it.
Do you know who I think that person?
Please,
I'm going to say it. You know damn well.
All that is holy in the world, please don't say it.
Ozzie Guillen.
God dang it.
Because here's why. This goes back to my statement about being run as a business, not as a baseball team. We know that ticket sales, season ticket renewals, and new customers, by the way, hint, hint, someone who is listening to this. Good evening, Baloney. How are you? I'll be listening to you guys later. And if you don't catch the Sports Bums, you should make it a point. They go on about 9 o'clock on Monday night. You should check them out. But the reason I say Ozzie is going to be the choice, and it wouldn't surprise me if Jim Thome becomes the hitting coach too, to be honest with you, is that we know that season ticket wise, they are suffering. They have a lot of defections, if you will. The numbers aren't coming in what they were. What is the fastest way to get the meatballs recommitted to the team? Bring in a known commodity that they want.
Like a dog returning to his vomit.
Commodity. That's why. Yep, exactly. But the people, hey, Ozzie won for us in 05. He can do it again. That's why I think all of this is false hustle. All of this is eyewash so that they can make it look like they did this exhaustive search and everything came up Ozzy. When I think the decision's already been made. Now, I'm not going to toot our horn, but let's just say someone in the Tainted Glove Network, maybe someone on this podcast right now, maybe not, but maybe someone on this podcast has some connections that was talking about Ozzie Guillen gaining steam over the weekend. And I just think this is such a White Sox move. It is such a White Sox move because it'll appeal to the sect of meatballs that, oh, well, Ozzy Chicago Tough. Remember that one? Kenny Williams, Chicago Tough. Remember that? Ozzy Chicago Tough. He won here. He knows what it's take. He's got White Sox blood. And I'll quote another thing. Remember, Rick Hahn said that White Sox DNA was not a requirement. Keywords was not a requirement. But if you ever interview people, one of the deciding factors, if you have two candidates who are equal, is do they have familiarity with what I'm looking for? Guess who does? Ozzy. That's why I keep saying that you have to look at the White Sox and their decision-making being run as a business, not as a baseball team. It is two different mindsets.
If you hire Ozzy, it's not a baseball move. It's not a baseball move if you hire Ozzy.
It's a business decision.
He has no business in a
decision.
None.
To try and appeal,
right?
To try and appeal to the meatballs.
But,
yeah.
And after the stuff that he said,
it is a business decision to try
Miami,
and appeal to the meatballs.
He's done. Like it's just insane to me that, and again, the meatballs are thrown out there, and it's absolutely it's disheartening to me because again, I've been told, there's this whole thing that I've been told my entire life from White Sox fans. They're the only ones that say it, by the way, because they're the only ones that think it. But the White Sox fans have a higher baseball IQ than Cub fans. Well, this right here, the incredible amount of White Sox fans that think that Ozzie Guillen as manager is a good decision is proof positive that no fan base has the baseball IQ market locked down. Period. Like it's dumb. It's dumb. It's a stupid idea when you've got candidates like Espada, when you've got candidates like Ron Washington, when you've got candidates like, I'm personal, the Ryan Christensen idea, but no one's talking about him. You've got all these different options. And you're going to go back to
even Joe Madden would be better.
Absolutely, Joe Madden would be better. You know why? Because Joe Madden has won a baseball game and won a World Series sometime inside the last half a decade. 6 years, I guess now. It was 6 years, but less than 6 years still. But
yeah,
I mean,
he was in the dugout last year too.
Yeah, but Ozzie Guillen hasn't done shit since 05.
Right,
and he got fired in Miami because he started throwing out support for Fidel Castro. That was a whole to do. And then you've got obviously the fact that he couldn't win a game. He couldn't manage himself out of a paper bag when he didn't have the talent.
Yes.
And he was gone after a year. And I know the general manager from the Marlins, I think it was, one of them, somebody from the Marlins organization, when his name started popping up in this search, had some really choice words to say about Ozzie. Look, Ozzie's been lobbying for this job since last year.
Yes.
It's a pathetic scab mentality, and it's a scumbag.
No, he's been lobbying since Renteria.
He's been lobbying
since Renteria.
And I said it in our text there. When you put a guy like that in media to have that kind of a platform to allow himself to try and weasel his way into a job, that into itself is journalistically unethical. And it's unethical on his part for lobbying after people's jobs when they're in their work. That's somebody else's livelihood, man. Ozzie, move on. But he's been doing it, him and his kids. And this is what you get. You're going to get a shit show that's all chaos. And the White Sox, it'll be the death knell for the window. Ozzie won't break the window. He will smash it into pieces when he gets his toxic, because he's toxic, man. That managerial
I think the window's broken.
He told the guy with the floor.
I think the window's broken already.
It could be.
Yeah, I think the window's broken to begin with. So I think they blew their chance. To be completely honest, and you want to talk about off-season moves, and I want to address one comment here from Baloney Fonseca. Great guy, by the way. Good luck in the 108 weight loss challenge too. Uncle Jerry's middle name is nepotism, so Ozzie would make sense only to him. That's right. That's part of the White Sox problem. That's somewhat ingrained in their DNA. Nepotism. It's got to be in. It's sort of like a mob mentality. Got to keep it in the family. Unfortunately, in my opinion, the White Sox are entering the Bill Wirtz phase of the Blackhawks' existence. If you remember those last 4 or 5 years with Bill Wirtz at the Blackhawks, how awful it was, how terrible it was. That's what the White Sox are entering right now. You have Kenny Williams and Rick Hahn. I can't figure out which one is Bob Pulford. I can't, because they're both at that same Bob Pulford level, to be completely honest with you. How Kenny Williams still has a job after the Dave Wilder incident in 2007 or 2008, whenever it was, by the way, after the Ozzie Kenny feuds of 2011, when frankly both of them should have been fired and neither one was. And, after the way the Machado Harper stuff went down. And to those people on Twitter who were addressing me as a Jerry Reinsdorf bootlicker, because I said that the blame for the way the Machado thing went down is not on Jerry. It is on Kenny and Rick using their own fucking words against them. They are the ones who told us that they went to Jerry with the offer that said, this is the offer we're going to give him. This is what we need to sign him. Jerry signed off on it. Jerry went with them to deliver that offer to Manny Machado on a Monday. He signed with San Diego on Tuesday. So people are going, well, why didn't Jerry up the offer? Because that was the last offer they gave. That is what Jerry's trust said would get the deal done, and they failed. Again, you have to look at this team not as a baseball organization, but as a business. And if you understand that it's run as a business, you understand exactly how that went down, because you don't involve the CEO or the director or anybody else until the end. Mm-hmm. You go to them with, this is what we need approval for. Here's the figure. And he gave it.
Didn't Han
all the blame for that goes to Kenny and Rick.
Didn't he say he went to bed thinking that they had the best offer in too? Something like that. I remember him saying something like, I went to bed, went to sleep feeling like we put in the best offer.
Well,
blah, 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 and he just like it wasn't.
Yep.
He sat on his hands.
And he woke up at 2 a.m. or something.
And here's the sad irony.
And he woke up at 2 a.m. like
Machado and Bryce Harper are both playing in the NLCS.
Yes.
The White Sox.
And can I say one more thing? Mm-hmm. Can I say one more thing about the Machado and Harper pursuit, especially Machado? Who was the first person, as soon as the Machado announcement came out that he was signing with San Diego? How long did it take Kenny Williams to get in his fucking golf cart and go out to the reporters and start laying the narrative down that they had the best offer? That, let me put my sunglasses on to hide the shock in my eyes that he didn't sign this offer. How long did it take him? 5 minutes? Because he was out there immediately, which tells me that he was covering his ass because they know they misread the market, which is something we've seen since. They misread it with Machado when everyone and their mother knew it took $300 million to close the deal for him. And they didn't go. They got cute. And they did that. They misread it right before the lockout, if you remember. Hahn came out and said it. We didn't expect this much activity in the market before the lockout. We misread the market. He also misread the market with Craig Kimbrell. This is not a new phenomena. It happens over and over again, and people need to understand this. This is run as a business, not as a baseball team. There are two distinct differences in how a business is run versus a baseball team. This organization has the classic earmarks of being run as a business. And if you understand that it's run as a business, you will understand the moves they make and why they make them. I am not saying they're right. I am not. But you will understand how they think and the moves they're going to make. And I'll add one more thing to that too. Taking all this into account, that's why they want Ozzie. Because remember, Rick Hahn gave away how much season ticket trouble they're having. He gave it away. In his press conference the day Tony retired or what announced he wasn't coming back, whatever you want to call it, Rick Hahn gave it away. Josh Nelson pointed this out. He said, we need to regain the trust of the fans. You know what that's a big red flag for? You're pissed off at us and you're not coming back, so we need to do something to get you back.
Mm-hmm.
And talking to the ticket reps are taking a beating. An absolute beating.
Fault.
No, absolutely it's not their fault. But they're taking a beating because, remember, part of their pay is based on commission for how many tickets they can sell. They ain't selling shit.
Yep.
And fans are calling them up and expecting, Nick is my ticket rep. Fans are calling Nick up and expecting, hey, you need to go tell Jerry this. Yeah, poor little Nick is going to go tell Jerry Reinsdorf, hey, so-and-so is upset about this and you need to do something about it. Yeah. That's real smart.
Yeah, and that's
right. But,
there's so much time. Again, this season, if anything, proved the toxicity levels that can be achieved by White Sox Twitter and White Sox fans, which is pretty impressive, honestly, to see that kind of toxicity. How well they wore it too. I mean, they were good at it. They were talented in toxicity. But it's unfortunate that.
And can I say this? Yeah. I'll say this too. I know Yumper and I know Brian both have had issues trying to buy their product. Think about that statement. They are trying to buy their product, and they are having issues buying their product. Let me give you another little business 101 advice. You know what the first rule of business is?
Make it easy. Always be
It's very simple. No, the customer's always right.
Oh, that too.
Number one, customer's always right. You know what rule number 2 is?
Don't eat yellow snow.
Any idea what rule number 2 is? Well, besides that, number 2 is go look at rule number 1. That's rule number 2. Go look at rule number 1.
Tap the sign.
Yeah. And I'll say this, and I agree with Brian. Nick is a great ticket rep. He really is. He tries his damnedest, but he's unfortunately in a position where he's a boxer punching with one hand behind his back.
Yep.
And I feel bad for him.
You can't shine shit. You can't shine shit. And
exactly.
He's dealing with it. He's trying, you can't shovel someone, a spoonful of poop and tell them it's caviar. And unfortunately, they have to try and sell this as some sort of...
And tell them it's caviar.
Yeah, it works for them. It really does. And that, again, it falls... You're so right. And again, you brought it up so many times in this show that the White Sox need to go away. And again, I cannot comprehend how Rick Hahn has his job right now. I cannot... It doesn't register to me how someone that could fuck it up so royally still has a job. Like, is it that bad that they think that just throwing it on Tony La Russa is somehow going to forgive things? The fact that they lacked all the depth that they needed, and they didn't have a winning roster put together before the season started, and that's on Rick Hahn. Is it on anybody else that they didn't make any major moves of significance at the trade deadline? And the one move they did was an absolute dog shit move?
It's all Tony La Russa. It's evil Tony La Russa. Everything was his fault. You know why they can get away with that? Because you have a certain set of meatball fans on Twitter who, no matter what you say, Jerry Reinsdorf is cheap and it was all Tony's fault. The roster construction, that you have first baseman playing left and right field, that was Tony's fault. Okay. Playing Lurie Garcia too much. Partially Tony's fault, but also partially fault of the roster construction and the fact that you don't have competent medical staff and you don't have backups for all the injured players you're going to have. Because you look at this roster, Eloy's spending at least one stint on the IL. Luis Roberts spending at least one stint on the IL. Tim Anderson spending at least one stint on the IL. Yohan Moncada spending at least one stint on the IL. So what does that mean you need? Depth. What do you not have? Depth. Where's that continual pipeline of fucking talent that you talked about when you started the rebuild? I sure as Christ don't see it. I bet Colson Montgomery's awful fucking alone in that pipeline going, hey, where's everyone else at?
Hey, everybody. He's like Will Smith walking in at the end of Fresh Prince.
Yes. You mean that meme that that White Sox talk from NBC Sportsnet sent out at the beginning of the season. Is the rest of the division going to show up? Yeah. Cleveland did. Oops.
Yeah, they still showing right now. We'll see how that goes tonight. But yeah, that's the thing too is
Yeah.
you look at all this. I didn't mean to get this kind of reaction. Again, it wasn't like a clickbait kind of thing. But I threw this out there. I threw a suggestion out here because if we're talking about, if we learned one thing from the Joe Madden SI article and something that I've talked about on the show and we've talked about before, managers don't do as much as what people think they do. They are given, at this point with analytics, they are given their lineup. And even Joe Madden talked about it. They're given their pitchers that are available that day, and they have to make do with whatever they're given. So Joe Madden would come to the ballpark and have his lineups written for him based on the analytics. He would have 5 arms that he could use that day, and that's where he starts his preparation. But he also had a general manager calling down to the dugout trying to tell him what moves to make. You've got general managers that are, in his case, the Angels are a shit show. General manager and his assistant, they gave themselves a locker in the coach's locker room to change before games along with the coaching staff. Now, that's the weirdest shit I've ever heard. Get out of here, you pencil push nerd. Go back up to your you stay there. I stay here. Bam. And so we see this. So we know that it's not all like Tony's not penning this lineup. So Lurie in the lineup, we now know was really probably some sort of decision made by the analytics department, all 6 of them, whatever the White Sox have total. And that's it. But so I threw this out there because I believe that it would be kind of cool. Alyssa Nakin, who is she's the first female coach in Major League Baseball history. She's a coach for the Giants. Everyone in San Francisco freaking loves her.
Yes.
She's well liked there. She understands analytics from all I've heard from the people that I've spoken to in the game that would have that kind of knowledge. A couple guys I'll be golfing with in a couple weeks, actually. But
nice.
All of this. So I threw that out there. It wasn't a joke. I wasn't trying to throw something. She was a college softball player. It's not like she's some just random person that decided I'm going to go be in the game. She's got experience in the game. And when I threw that out there, oh my God, I felt
that was
the responses were something. There were responses too, but holy shit. Honestly, what else? Why not even consider it? But it was obviously, it had nothing to do. It had nothing to do with the actual, managerial talent. It had everything to do because she's a woman and they didn't, people.
Well, and I'll say this. I think part of the responses you got, there's no doubt in my mind one of them was from Kenny Williams telling you to stay out of White Sox business.
Probably. I know Ken WO. Basically, all these people sided with Ken WO. Is basically what happened. Welcome to the weird upside down. Look, these names that you're throwing out there, it's about people. In the end, managers don't have any more power with their pens at this point. People need to stop applying the previous expectations of a manager to the analytics era. You want to evolve with the game, then understand how the lineups are now written, because a lot of people don't understand that these lineups are not written by the manager anymore. They are written by the analytics department. That's not Tony La Russa's handwriting on those lineup cards. Okay,
it's Jerry Narrant, which is very nice, by the way.
Correct. Jerry is giving the lineup, and then Tony shows up and says, "Oh, all right, let's dance." So a lot of the Lurie stuff came from the White Sox analytics department. That wasn't Tony La Russa forcing a square peg into a round hole. That was the White Sox analytics department as a whole that was giving that the approval. And so you got to understand that this managerial search and everything that the White Sox are going to be doing, it has to do with people. Mm-hmm. How do you handle people? That's why Ozzie Guillen was a terrible decision, because nobody fucking likes that guy. He's an asshole. And you don't want an asshole in your clubhouse anymore, because the only thing they control is the positivity in that clubhouse. And that's where you're looking. You look for makers of men, people that lead from the front, not criticizers, not assholes, not slapdicks and cowards. You got to have someone in there that's going to actually embed themselves within the team and be able to, work with guys when they go through their highs and their lows. And that's their job now. It's not about, these guys don't write the lineups. These guys don't really make the in-game decisions. Again, the pitching coach makes the pitching decision, and the manager is like the final stamp of approval. But it's coming from cats. Some of these, just the pitching decisions, we're cats as well. And people, again, everyone gets off scot-free. It was all Tony La Russa. The hurricane that hit Florida was Tony La Russa's fault too.
Yes, it was.
Fault.
Global warming is Tony La Russa's fault.
Economic inflation is Tony La Russa's fault. All of it. And so that's where the people are missing on what people need to be looking at. You need to look at people that have connections with their players, that are spoken well of. This is why I keep tooting this Ryan Christensen horn. Every single dude that I've talked to that has played with him for him, whether as a bench coach at the major league level or maybe they played with him at the minor league level. He is loved, and everyone's like, dude, the dude got me going. I would go through a brick wall for that guy. That's what you want. You want guys that are going to listen, retain it, and will be open to the suggestions that come from these. That's why, again, a Joe Madden, the shtick might wear thin after a couple years, but boy, that shtick is great the first couple years. And you know what?
That is.
It's about winning that first title first, and you can worry about the other shit later. Cubs got it fast because you know what? That's what he did. It took 1 year for him to get in there and get them to the postseason because he was doing his magic shows and his petting zoos and his dress-up days. And it worked for a while, and it did. And then the Cubs kind of got lackadaisical and then the shtick wears off. But you know what? Win a gosh darn World Series first, then worry about the rest later. And so that's where they need to be looking, I think, in my opinion.
Well, and I'll say a couple more things. One, with Ryan Christensen, I am not as familiar with the guy as you are, but I believe every word you said about him. So, but I think a previous action he took will haunt him for a long, long time, even though it was something that was, is it safe to say, wildly misconstrued.
Yep. Oh, you're talking about the wave in the dugout? Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely stupid. It's absolutely stupid. Like anybody that knows that guy too knows that that's like stupid. But that's what, of course. But that'll be something that White Sox fans that wouldn't approve of that hire would use as their because that's all they're going to do. If they don't, and this is again, it's such a trip to me like that. But Ozzie Guillen endorsing Fidel Castro, no problem. We're good with that one.
Well, I'm going to say something.
Genocidal maniac over the over the pond, but that guy raised his hand weird. We're going to go ahead and have a problem with that. No, see, but. Right. It's selective. That's all it is. It's selective outrage.
And I'm going to say a couple more things. First, with Ozzie, I want to say this clearly. Ozzie got himself fired in Miami. Yep. Or were they still Florida? Were they Florida at the time or were they Miami? I can't remember.
The Marlins.
He got himself fired from the Marlins. It was his doing. He did not get himself out of the White Sox position. His kids caused that. And my fear is it's almost like if Ozzie Guillen comes back, it's like Billy Martin returning to the Yankees for the fourth or fifth time. You know the drama's coming. You know it's coming. Something's going to happen. They may get a bump, but something's going to happen. And
all you got to do
I just leave Ozzie. Yeah, leave Ozzie in the TV, in the pre and post game show. Leave him there. Because he is entertaining at times there, I will say that. But I don't want him in the dugout because I'm going to use the criteria against Tony La 10 years. The game has wildly changed in that 10 years. If that statement applies to La Russa, it also applies to Ozzie. Because you know why? Ozzie's last year in the dugout was 2012. And fuck Girardi. Fuck that guy. If there's one manager I want less than Ozzie Guillen, it's Joe fucking Girardi.
And it's that hard nose that again, the some of the hard cases, they think that, oh yeah, we have a guy in the dugout that'll tell them like it is. And no, the hard ass doesn't work anymore. That time has passed. These players, I'm sorry, they're too fragile. I'll be honest, they're fragile. I coach them at the high school level where we're not allowed to say shit with our mouth full of manure, and it just keeps going as they go up. It's all about their feelings, and it's all about it's not about necessarily the logic in the game. And so that is what it is when it's just not, the game isn't that way anymore. The Bobby Knight style of coaching is dead. You need to have people that connect and uplift, and that is it. It doesn't matter. You need to have someone with a firm hand, sure. But Ozzie Guillen, like if you watch that, there's a clip that I saw the other day of him talking to one of the pitchers on the Marlins, and this, of course, he's doing it for the Showtime special because he thinks he's so fucking cool. And he's basically like, nobody here wants to watch you pitch. The general manager, the fans, your family, nobody wants to watch you. Like, who says that to a fucking player? Like, that's a fucking douche act.
Was it Heath Bell?
It might have been. Was it
Heath Bell?
I mean,
because I know those two did not get along. And I have to laugh at a comment here by my friend Doug, aka the Mayor. I thought Tony caused Ozzie to get fired down in Florida. Sure, why not? Add that on too, because Tony's guilty of everything to everybody. And
Oh,
I
here you go.
just
Here you go. You ready? You ready for this? Yeah.
yeah.
I want to see if I can play it. I want to see if I can play it. No, that's not it. Oh wait. I swear I just had it up here too, and it was like, he's like, nobody wants to see you pitch. Nope, that's not it either. Oh darn it! I wish I had it still. I lost it, but it was like, he's
Yeah,
like,
no
nobody
worries. Yeah.
pitch. Nobody, your family doesn't want to watch you pitch. Just he insults the guy. That's again.
It's got to be Heath Bell. It's got to be Heath Bell.
Probably it was. Yeah, I mean, it was a pit, obviously a pitcher. So anyway,
Yeah.
so with that, now we've talked about leaders of men. But what about actual like roster depth and build? What are you looking at for this offseason for the White Sox? And where do you think they need to go as far as, I know you've tossed out a couple like, Andrew Vaughn and Giolito kind of trade kind of concepts. And nobody should be, I agree in the idea. I agree that nobody is untouchable. Every offer should be listened to and given at least an ear to at least mull over. So for you, what are some moves that you feel like the White Sox need to make this offseason that's going to get them back to the postseason and make them a contender again, no matter who is in that dugout, leading?
I want to preface this statement by saying, let me explain the no one is untouchable thing. When you say no one is untouchable, that doesn't mean. Did you lose? Oh, I'm back. No one is it's not trading for the sake of trade. It's no one is. If the right offer comes along, you trade them. That's all it is. Plain and simple. There's only 2 untradeable athletes in Chicago history in my lifetime. Neither one of them played professional baseball for the White Sox. One played in the minors. That was Michael Jordan and Walter Payton. Those were the only 2. People have said, what about Frank Thomas? Ken Griffey Jr., Barry Bonds? Would you trade? I would trade Frank for one of those guys. Love you, Frank, but let me drive you to the airport. I've heard Brian Urlacher. I go, Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Brian, let me drive you to the airport. So there's no such thing as an untouchable player. It depends on the deal. Now, I personally, and I've said this for a few months now, and I hope you'll back me up on this, I think Lucas Giolito is being traded. And everybody says, well, they'd be selling low. Again, it is not a baseball. 2 different dynamics. Why is it a business decision? Because they had that whole squabble over $50,000 fucking dollars last year that Jerry Reinsdorf had to get involved with and settle. They know he's not going to sign a long-term. Going to get for him. Either do you wait till the trade deadline? What if he gets worse? Do you offer him a qualifying offer and then he takes it for $19-20 million, whatever it may be? Or do you trade him now while you possibly can get something? That's why I think he's not going to be on the roster come opening day. I think Andrew Vaughn is one of your few assets, along with Liam Hendricks, that you can use to try and. You have multiple positions to fill. You need a catcher, you need a second baseman, you need a right fielder to begin with. You could always use more bullpen depth because Rick Hahn's bullpen last year looked fucking horseshit. But those 3 positions you need depth at. Or let me rephrase it. You need depth at catcher because Grandal's basically washed. Second base and right field, you need a starter. Now, there is something after watching the playoffs this weekend, and people may laugh at me when I say this, and I texted you and Yump and Svo about this. I could see the White Sox and Dodgers trying to do like the proverbial basketball bad contract for bad contract swap or bad player for bad player swap and swap Giolito and Bellinger because they're both got 1 year left, both great change of scenery candidates. And let's face it, the Dodgers are flush with position players. It's no hair off their ass to let Bellinger go, evidenced by the fact that he didn't start in game 2 or games 3 and 4 against the Padres. He was on the bench. That doesn't sound like a key player to me if they're on the bench during the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So I could see, and I'm not saying those 2 straight up. There'd have to be other moving parts in there as well, but that would be the beginning framework of a deal.
prospects. I mean, the Dodgers have like 7 players in the top 100 prospects. I mean, they've got it. They're locked and loaded both at the major league level and below. So they have that that flexibility to go ahead and drop a few prospects here and there to get the to get something done and make it worth the White Sox while. I mean, Giolito's contract would be a drop in the bucket for the Dodgers at this point. I think anybody actually it'll be a drop in the bucket because his performance this year, I think, harmed his ability to earn, and that's an unfortunate break for him. But I mean, in the game, you got to produce, and that's one part of it. Is that was one of the best things I saw. I mean, I know Carlos Correa was talking about it on MLB Network about how to if you were to sell yourself to a GM, this is what they're looking for, and it's the same thing with your pitching. You need to be viewed as valuable, and nothing that he did this season really screamed value. He screamed frustration, and hopefully it's just a bad year that kind of started rough and was rough on everybody. Whether I mean the giant storm cloud that hovered over the White Sox season starting in February makes it difficult for anybody at a competitive level to keep the wheels on the train, so to speak. And maybe it was the toxicity that got to him, and a fresh start somewhere else. He'll ball. Maybe the humility got him to work. He'll work harder in the offseason. I don't think he's not a hard worker though. I don't know. But
he did something else though. He repeated a mistake. He decided that he was going to add, I think it was 27 pounds of muscle to his frame. And I don't give a shit what anyone says. Changing your body that drastically affects you, especially if you're a pitcher, because part of what you need is pliability, especially in your arm.
Yep. Yeah, we say baseball muscles, not beach muscles. And as a pitcher, especially, that's especially true. And that does it. It changes his delivery. I mean, even if you're slightly off by a fraction of an inch, it's going to affect your efficiency on the bump and doing what you normally do. Mm-hmm. And that was a big mistake on his part. And that's a question though. By putting on that extra meat, did he do irreparable damage? Because now when he loses the weight, if he does,
he's got to redefine. He's got to rebuild his entire mechanics. He might need new mechanics.
Mm-hmm. So that's tough. Who else now? You mentioned the outfield, right?
So
you're
Bellinger.
You're looking for Bellinger, and behind the dish, there is a guy that is from Chicago, lives in Chicago, that is a free agent this offseason that it sounds like he's not going to get a qualifying offer from the team that was the place that he played his entire career. What are your thoughts on maybe potentially the White Sox kicking the tires on a Wilson Contreras acquisition, a guy that can and has proven not only can he catch, he can play all over the diamond. He's not a base clogger. He actually is pretty athletic, and he's another right-handed bat though. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on the Cubs kicking the tires on that possibility, or what are your options that you're looking at?
I would welcome Contreras. I'd love the move, to be honest with you. I would absolutely love it. I don't see it happening, but I would absolutely love it because I'm going to use Rick Hahn's words. Throwing money at the problem won't solve it. We're going to need to make trades. Well, the likelihood of fixing the problem with trades is a lot harder than by throwing money at it. Sorry, that's the truth.
I stand corrected, by the way. I apologize. Maybe it's just because Jed Hoyer is full of diarrhea of the mouth. But Jed Hoyer, now this makes him more of a dickhead, actually, is he's definitely going to make a qualifying Art Wilson Contreras offer, which is bullshit because you know what that does? That kills his free agency. Yep. Nobody is going to want to pay that much and a prospect to get Wilson Contreras. So the Cubs basically said, we love you, Wilson, so much that we're going to fuck you over. You're not going to get to enjoy free agency and get wined and dined. We're going to make you so unattractive to everybody else that you have no other choice but to sign with us. That is such a shit move. Sorry. They should have let him go through free agency because if they're so loyal and they believe that it's such a great place to play, Wilson Contreras would totally sign back there, wouldn't he?
I think
except you're a dick fuck. That's what you are, Jed. You're an asshole.
I think the Cubs fucked up by keeping him. And we talked about it. We talked about it during the offseason. We talked about it at the trade deadline. Why is he still there? Why was he still there? It made no sense.
Yeah.
It makes
That's the-
sense from one perspective. It was to appeal to the Meatball Cub fan that they're still trying to be competitive.
Yep. And it's throwing him in a terrible situation. I'll be honest too. If the qualifying offer price is what I'm seeing, what is it? Let's see. The qualifying offer is looking like $18.4 million. It's this year. It's $19.65 million. I love Wilson Contreras to death. I don't think Wilson Contreras is worth. That's not intelligent spending. He talks about intelligent spending all the time. I don't think he's worth 19.65, almost $20 million a year. No offense. That's overpaying. And I thought Jet was all about intelligent spending. So that tells me that the move has everything to do with optics or forcing someone else to overpay for the Cubs to get the free draft picks by ruining his free agency.
Could it be because it's a business move, aka optics, versus a baseball move?
And watch Jed said, yeah, we're definitely making an offer, a QO. Watch him not do it. Watch him not do it. And then because this came after they dropped this. This is from what is today? Today. This came out today. So the qualifying offer average went up by $1.25 million from last year. And so that's just but we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, and can I respond to Brian S., who says he doesn't think the Sox are going to do anything at catcher. Sevy's going to be the starter with Grandal as the backup, and Grandal will bounce between catcher, first base, DH. You're most likely right, because unfortunately, the problem is that, for all the fans who say Jerry's cheap, Jerry doesn't spend money, that's not necessarily true. I will stand by the statement I made when Tony La Russa was first hired. If there was any manager who could get Jerry to spend money, it was Tony La Russa. And he did. The White Sox had the highest payrolls they've ever had, especially in 2022. Now, it may not be where all the fans want it to be, but 190 is a whole lot different than $150 million. And the problem is not that they didn't spend money. They spent it terribly. And it's going to haunt them for a few years, how badly it was spent. With the Kelly contract, with the Graveman contract, the Grandal contract, Keuchel's off the books. And let me say one thing about Dallas Keuchel. White Sox fans may hate him. Don't discount what he said going out the door, because it's true. You may not like it, but it's the truth. There is a cultural problem with this organization. They don't know how to fucking win. They're too insular, and frankly,
And that actually leads us to a great segue too. When we talk about this, the White Sox also have another giant bat that sounds like they're going to have to replace, if you believe Bob Gale's reports, and that is that Jose Abreu is going to be allowed to hit free agency without a qualifying offer. It sounds like, and this opens it up for the White Sox. For you as a Sox fan, hearing that Jose, I know that that as Cub fans we had to deal with KB and Rizzo and Schwarber and the no look tag guy that is kind of a clown, and as a result that hurt. And for you guys as White Sox fans, this is just one. Like take that times 4. That's really what happened with the Cubs. That hurt. But Jose Abreu agency for you, what has he meant to the White Sox organization? What are your thoughts and your feelings on that being how he leaves? Is just gone. Okay.
Let me give you a little history. So since 1990, August of 1990, the White Sox have had 3 primary first basemen. 3. Frank Thomas, Paul Konerko, and Jose Abreu. That's 32 years of coverage between 3 guys. That's pretty good. Now, frankly, I think the White Sox roster has way too many first base DH types. I think if they can, they should try and keep Abreu with like a 1 year plus 1 second year option deal, and try and trade Andrew Vaughn and or Gavin Sheets. Get what you can for him. I think it's got to be Vaughn who gets traded, because he's the one who has more value. But I still maintain that the White Sox need to reach out to the Baltimore Orioles and say, hey, we'll give you hometown boy Gavin Sheets if you give us Adley Rutschman. I don't see why the Orioles don't take that deal. I'm joking, of course, for all you people who get all serious about that stuff. I'm absolutely joking. There's no way in hell the Orioles take that deal. And yes, that's how much I think of Adley Rutschman. But I know the hot rumor has been. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Keep going. I'll stunt at it.
Yeah. I know the hot rumor has been that Jose could still live in the city of Chicago and just drive 8 miles north. I know that's the hot rumor, and supposedly that is who is going to pursue him. The question I have, but I thought the Cubs had their first baseman of the future. Wasn't there a guy there who was better than Anthony Rizzo? What happened to Schwindel? What happened to all these guys? What happened to Bodie? What happened to all these guys? I thought they were the next core. They were the next future. But
can I as far as on that, by the way, because Patrick Wisdom hit 207 and had almost a sub 700 OPS.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, but I thought that was your future. I thought that's what I heard all year. How all these guys were the future, but
it also in a single major league inning is now the new Bale.
Yeah,
no,
yeah, but all joking aside. The way I feel about the White Sox organization and how frustrated I am with them, and I don't think I'm alone in saying this statement about being frustrated with them and being fed up with the 3-card Monty game that they play every year, because that's what it is. It's 3-card Monty. I don't know how anyone else feels about my next statement, but I would welcome him going to the Cubs. You know why? Because I would take a picture of Jose Abreu in a Cubs uniform, and I would send it to the White Sox every day in the mail. Every day. I'd print it out, drop it in the mail, and send it to them and say, enjoy. But I'll be honest, I don't see him going to the Cubs. To be completely honest, I really don't.
I know you said Houston. You thought Houston was
Houston or Boston.
Yeah. Those are good destinations. It's just so weird to see that. Mm-hmm. Again, a guy that's been this big a part of the franchise. It's just weird to see that they're let these guys walk. Like I know it's a business, and I guess it's just I wish they would stop preaching this family bullshit. If it's also then when this stuff happens, you tell us that it's a business. It's one or the other, right? It's about family and about loyalty, or it's not. That's it. Uh-huh. But stop preaching the bullshit at the same time. Stop shoveling it because it's tiresome. I don't want to care. I don't, just like with Jet, I don't want to hear about you being loyal and being close to the players. Why are you so close to the players? They don't keep signing. You love them so much that you keep sending them off to other franchises, and they don't want to come back when it's over. Why is that? Weird. Oh, maybe it's not that. So stop preaching that kind of shit. And that sucks with Jose Abreu walking. And you say this, Astros, or Boston. Those are teams that are set and believe they will contend. A team that believes they're going to contend doesn't let a bat like Jose Abreu walk out the door. Period. Yep. And that's where, again, if the Cubs actually are in it to win it, a Jose Abreu run means that they are actually in it to win it. I would actually be super ecstatic if Jed Hoyer pulled the trigger and brought Jose Abreu to the Cubs. I love the way he plays. I love watching his at bats. He may hit freaking 60 home runs at Wrigley for all we know. He owns Wrigley. I mean, it really is his house when he's there anyway. Yeah. And so I think that'll be great. And again, you could front load it, and it's a 2-year deal with a mutual player club option for year 2. Let that thing kind of happen, and that way there's a lot of freedom there. Both teams, if it's not working out, he can go somewhere else after the year. But you pay him for the worth, and you go for it. And that kind of is what kind of segues into the Cubs offseason is for them. In the press conference, Jed Hoyer seemed pretty clear that it's going to be a busy offseason for the Cubs and that they're going to spend. Again, we've heard this before, but he also then throws in his little buzzword, intelligent spending. And intelligent spending tells me that the 3 big infielders, Correa, Bogarts, Turner, if intelligent spending is what it is, he's not going to go on a deal 5 years. Yep. Oh yeah, Judge. Any of those big free agents.
Yeah.
It's been reported that he's not going beyond 5 years, if that, with any contract. That's his intelligent spending. So you can go ahead and cross Correa off that list and Turner, any of the big names, because they're going to want that Bryce Harper kind of deal where they get, years and years where they're good to, have comfort. So I just don't know. But the offseason, there's a lot of stuff coming through this offseason besides Abreu. Obviously, with Wilson Contreras, he's going to get that QO if they actually really do follow through with it. That kind of eliminates that stuff, the issue behind the dish. But then again, you could also give him a QO and trade him at the trade deadline. Then we can have 15 more goodbyes since Wilson Contreras has said goodbye like 75 freaking times at the All-Star, at the trade deadline, and at the end of this season. How many more times is this guy going to get cry on TV about his goodbye? And he just keeps coming back. He's like a bad penny. He keeps turning up. So, great for that. But other opportunities, you got Abreu. Rizzo is not coming back to the Cubs. He's done with the Cubs. Anybody that thinks that Rizzo's coming back with the Cubs, you're probably looking at your colon because your head's so far up your own rump that you're not even paying attention. Josh Bell's a pretty good option. Eric Hosmer's probably going to might opt out. I don't know if I opt out if I'm him, just because he's got a pretty good deal and he's not going to get that on the open market. You got second baseman. You've got Segura, who's got a club option, so I'm sure they're going to probably pull the trigger on that. Same with Colton Wong. Adam Frazier, Josh Harrison's got a club option, so he'll probably be around. Mutual option with Jonathan VR. There's not that many, second basemen unless you're talking about Trey Turner, Correa, Bogarts, even Dansby Swanson. Tim Anderson has a club option, which I'm sure they're going to take, and the Sox got to decide about Elvis Andrus as well. And then you got third baseman Arenado's can opt out if he wants to, but Turner's club option.
And can I say one thing? Can
Sure.
I jump in on one name you said, Tim Anderson? Now, I went on record on this podcast at the beginning of this, before the season actually, and said, I expect Tim Anderson to be the first $100 million player signed by the White Sox. That was my expectation. With the way this year went down and with some of the off the field activities, let's say, I could see him being a viable trade candidate too.
Who knows? Maybe. We don't know what goes on inside, the depth of all clubhouses. So, you've got that stuff. The outfield. Again, there's just player options. Like AJ Pollock. Jurickson Profar, Jorge Soler. Come on, bring him on back.
I would love Soler on the south side.
So, you got a better version of that though with Eloy. So Eloy,
but
Eloy was Soler, an evolutionary step up from Soler.
I would put Soler right.
And then Eloy came up, and I'm like, that's better than Soler. And I loved Soler, but I loved Eloy. When he was a Cub, that was kind of like the same mold. So there's not a great deal of big time moves that the Cubs can make this offseason other than those infielders, the Trey Turner, Correa, Bogarts.
Yeah.
And then, it kind of just, and then Jose Abreu. And so if the Cubs can go out and they could land Turner, Correa, or Bogarts, throw Turner at second base, or Correa at third base, because Nico Horner should be, in my opinion, the starting shortstop. His defense is one of the top two defensive shortstops analytically in baseball this year. I would not downgrade away from that. I would just pay an extra couple million for them for a discomfort to go play, a different spot, corner or up middle. And so there's not a lot of moves the Cubs can make, but there are trades, and we've heard them talk about potentially using some of this newfound prospect capital to go trade with the Anaheim Angels to go get Shohei Ohtani. And that would be a fantastic, again, move that shows the Cubs really mean business. But in the end, I don't want to touch out to too much because it's like beating a dead horse, and I'm almost exhausted with it. Yeah. Everything is action. I don't want to hear any more press conferences. I don't want any more stupid emails. I don't want any of this. I want to see the action. And if you don't make the moves, it's all hollow talk. And so far, under Jed's regime, other than the prospect pilfering that they've done by trading away their best talent and putting together a dog crap on-field major league team, I need to see action. And that's the only time. You want me to be back to super optimistic K-Feds? That is going to be what I need to see. And I love my buddy Justin Roman, and he's a very optimistic, but he knows full well, based on our text, that I will not just sit here and just completely just make it. Yeah, I know.
Gush over him. Yeah.
Just keep tricking me every time. I'm not going to get conned. You fooled me once. It ain't gonna happen again. And that's where I feel he's been 2 years of this lip service from him and Ricketts. And in the end, though, the Cubs convention is back. That tells me the Cubs are going to make some moves. They 100%. That's my indicator is Cubs convention's back. Cubs are making moves because they're going to totally play on the positivity of it. So I just
and
see the action. I got to see it. It's got to happen. I can't.
Right.
Don't tell me about it. Don't show me, or don't tell me. Show me. That's what I want.
And to your point, that is how I feel about the fact that the White Sox have not announced Sox Fest yet. I don't think they will. That tells me that the window is closed due to their own negligence, malfeasance, whatever, ineptitude, whatever term you want to use. That tells me the window's closed because, to your point, if there was positivity there, if they felt like, oh, this was a temporary blip in the road, we had injuries, we had this, they didn't play to the back of their baseball cards, blah, 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 they would have Sox Fest. But the White Sox being the White Sox and who they are, they're afraid to face the fans because they know I've seen the fans angry before. The white flag trade is one in 97. But I can say in all honesty, I have never seen this. I have never seen it at this level to the point where the front office has to say, we know we lost your trust. Think of how powerful that statement from Rick Hahn is. That should tell you how bad it really is that they went out and acknowledged it. Because usually, remember, they're the stay out of White Sox business franchise. They're the ones who play it close to the vest. They're the ones who are under the radar. They're those guys. That's why all these managerial leaks about, Espada and Pedro Gaffoli or whatever the hell his name is from KC, which makes no fucking sense that you're interviewing him. I find those leaks interesting because to me, it sounds like, again, the different camps are lining up to try and force the issue and get their guy's name out there. Mm-hmm. And because that tells me, similar to what happened with La Russa, remember everyone shit on Bob Nightingale when he said La Russa. Everyone shit on him. And he was 100% right. Mm-hmm. That tells me that they've already made the decision on who it is.
Yep. So, speaking of franchises that we were hoping would be on the up and up, but haven't on the up and up, Bears stink, man. They stink.
Oh, they stinks. They stinks.
Thursday night was arguably. I was at the Golden Knights game, thank God, and we were in the flight deck, so I had it on my phone. So I was watching it on my phone with a Commanders fan, by the way. My great friend H is a Commanders fan, so I had to sit there and
that's right. I remember that. I remember that now.
Yeah, and so H is obviously a neutral party. He was a quarterback himself growing up, and his neutral observations were right on par with what I'm kind of thinking too. And but here we go. The Bears go to they host Washington on a Thursday night, national audience, great moment for Justin Fields to shine, and they put up how many points?
They shit the bed.
They pooped the bed.
Yep.
And we saw an offense that couldn't get moving. We saw a quarterback that couldn't make his throws or go through his progressions. The only thing we did see was a defense getting it done. And the only thing short of a defensive touchdown, that poor defense, I mean, the Bears gave up less than 200 yards of total offense, I believe, and lost. Like, that's not good. So for you, you watched it. You were there in person, I believe, right?
No, I actually, a friend of mine whose brother-in-law was a Commanders fan, or as I heard someone refer to him, a Commodores fan, asked me to buy my tickets for that game. So I had originally planned on being out of town, but that fell through. But thanks Florida. But so I sold them the tickets. So I watched it on TV, and the fascinating thing I see, and I keep going back to this line I learned as a little kid, and it's so true. Football is won and lost on the lines. Mm-hmm. They have no offensive line whatsoever. I think if I tried to rush the passer, there might be a couple plays where I was able to get through. Not every play, but a few. And I cannot honestly judge whether or not Justin Fields is the answer at quarterback. I really can't, because he's not getting the kind of protection that the average quarterback needs in order to go through progressions and, read defenses and everything else. Now, the argument will be, well, he takes the longest to release the ball, 3.35 seconds. But if you look at him, how much of that 3.35 seconds is him under duress? Where he's, bobbing and weaving, trying to dodge and, what is it? Dip, dive, duck. What were the 5 Ds at dodgeball? Dodge, dip, dive, duck, and dodge. That's what it was. And that's what he's trying to do. Now, I saw something early in the game that actually made me sort of excited. Because let me say this too. While I agree that football is won and lost on the lines, both offense and defense, I strongly disagree with another philosophy of football, and that is you got to run to set up the pass. Give me a fucking break. I think more so you need to pass to set up the run, because you pass for show, you run for dough. And when I say you run for dough, you want to have that running game going late in the game, especially if you have a lead. Now, if you keep, they keep talking about, well, you keep hammering them. Well, if you can't establish a passing game, they're going to stack 8-9 in the box and come after you. And they're not going to stop. If you spread the field, they have to honor that. So you're going to have less guys on the line, thereby creating more space for your running back to run. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of people don't like that idea, but sorry, that's the way I think. And I saw them go vertical a couple times, and I was like, oh, good. They're going vertical. They're trying to stretch the field so they can open up the running game later in the game. And they went away from that.
Well,
and part of it is
the ball at their feet, too, half the time. And that's been a problem. His accuracy has been crap. And I have to say this, though. The world, Justin Fields has a 3.42 second average on time to throw, which is 0.2 seconds longer than any other quarterback in the NFL, and 0.36 seconds longer than he got last year in his rookie season when he played better. The regression is real right now, because I don't know if he's got PTSD from whatever, but
he's not going to survive the season.
He's had more time in the pocket. He's not going through his progressions. He's throwing the double coverage because he's not going. It's option one, and that's it. If you look at the ball game too, and again, progressions are progressions. That last play of the ball game that he threw into double coverage, that was knocked down and just barely out of bounds. If he goes through his progressions, his third option is David Montgomery, wide open in the flat, nowhere near any defender, easily walked. He could have crawled in, done the spider, and crawled into the end zone if Fields goes through his progressions. The problem is, and maybe it's his perception of a lack of time or whatever it is, but he is getting rid. He's trying to almost get rid of it too quick, so he's not going through his progressions. He's throwing into coverage, and that's causing a problem. And so I don't know what it is, but he looks at times like, again, his running is never going to be in question. He's absolutely fantastic when he's on the run, but was he though, Swell? Was he though? Because he was literally running a route out in the flat. So anyway, we'll go ahead and you guys, again, this is where I want to go with, because Swell actually is perfect for this. I'm so tired of the excuses. I've seen more excuses in his first 16 starts than I have seen. Look, I understand he's talented, okay? But I'm sorry. This is it. Sooner or later, even a shitty quarterback in the NFL throws for 200 yards. A shitty quarterback could throw for Justin Fields hasn't thrown for more than 200 yards all season, has he? Okay, it's not just blame on this. It's like blaming Tony La Russa for all the problems with the White Sox and absolving of all the others. I'm tired of he's getting absolved of mistakes. And guess what? I'm not going to listen to Trent Dilfer, because Trent Dilfer has an obsession with Justin Fields' success because he's a product that goes to his camp and he's trying to sell his damn camp. It has nothing to do with Justin Fields and actually what he's actually given analysis. And so you see people defending him, and I can't put my finger on why, but I can tell you this. And look, Mitch Trubisky was booed before he even played his first game. But Mitch Trubisky did not get this kind of excuse making given to him in his first 16 starts. He was dead in the water, and everybody was already turned on him at this point. Look, Justin Fields needs to figure it out, and that's it. Great potential is everything. Yeah, shit in one hand and wish in the other, and see what develops first, okay? Because I don't give a shit. Because again, it's not happening. And yes, maybe it's partly the Bears' fault, and it is, but it's also Justin Fields' fault. He missed a wide open tight end, and people said it's because the tight end was too slow. The guy was standing all by himself. It's an easy pass. Okay. A third grader can do that. And he missed them because the lights got too big for him. And I don't know. Maybe he's scared. Maybe he's playing on his heels. But I've seen enough throws. And this is where I want to go with this. Neutral people that have nothing involved and invested in the Bears watch that game and say Justin Fields might be one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. And I don't believe that to be true, but he's playing like one right now. Mm-hmm. And he needs to figure it out. I'm not going to make excuses for him. He's had guys wide open and he throws the ball at their feet. Darnell Mooney was a perfect example. Darnell Mooney ran a perfect route the other day, and he threw the ball 5 yards in front of him. And there was no pressure in the pocket. It just was a bad throw. He's missing the guys when they're actually open. And I feel like more people have been open this year than last year, and he was still hitting them last year. So what is the problem? Is it because he went to Trent Dilfer's camp and he can't make these throws? Is it his footwork? Something has changed this year from last year, and it's not Matt Nagy, obviously, but there is something wrong with Fields in his decision making.
It's Tony La Russa's fault.
And this is the stuff that people have said from the start, that he thinks too much, that he takes too much time to make decisions. And in this case, because he's trying to make decisions quicker, he's just going to his first option and he's not going through his progressions. But they need more RPOs. They need to play to his strength. They need to roll him out. Just something's got to change. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to make excuses for Justin Fields. I just believe I'm no longer on the Justin Fields bandwagon. I'm on the Justin Fields fence. Now it's put up or shut up, because I'm done with this excuse making. And it's all excuse making. It feels like every single thing that he doesn't do right is somebody else's fault. And that's not okay. And if I'm Justin Fields and I'm a competitor, I don't take that. I don't enjoy that. I don't want excuses. I want production, period. I don't give a shit who it is. And so, honestly, when he got knocked down the other day, if they brought in, who's the backup now? If they bring in Trevor Siemian, guess what? I bet you the Bears win that game. I'll say that 100%. Because you know what? Does Justin Fields have the ability to change the plays of the line? Does he have that trust? Does he have the ability? Does he have the acumen and the IQ, the football IQ to read the defense properly and change the plays of the line? And these are things that, when you have a no offensive line, Aaron Rodgers has dominated with a terrible offensive line in for a decade. He's had a dog shit offensive line for years, and it doesn't matter. So I don't want to buy, you've got to be able to make changes. And if he's not given the opportunity to make changes, that's a trust factor, because every time a coach says I trust him and then they don't let him make changes at the line, that tells me that you don't trust them. So I don't know. I need change. And I'm not saying change a quarterback. He's the quarterback through and through. I need better performances, and I need open receivers actually getting hit in the chest instead of throwing the ball 4 feet in front of them or 4 yards over their head when they're wide open. Again, I'm watching Justin Herbert on TV right now. Justin Herbert didn't have a great offensive line his first year. Mm-hmm. Didn't matter. Find ways. Get it done.
Look at what's his name from Buffalo.
Yep. Jared Allen. But look, he's got 16 starts, and his numbers are somewhat comparable to Jalen Hurts at this point through 16 starts.
Yeah.
Except for a couple of accuracy, poo-poos, which is fine. But this is not the
accuracy poo-poo should be the exception, not the norm. They're going to happen to everybody. But like I said, it should be the exception, not the norm.
Oh, look, there's more excuses in the chat. More excuses.
Yeah. I will say this, too. I don't think Justin Fields is going to make it the entire season. I think he's going to go down in a heap because he got crunched one too many times. And I think I think he's going to miss time because that porous offensive line is not protecting him enough. And that is not an excuse. That's what I see coming.
No, the line is terrible. Terrible. But
that's what I see coming.
He's obviously not picking up a blitz. Sorry. I'm not as inclined as everybody else to make excuses for Justin Fields. You guys, each their own. You want to make excuses till you're blue in the face? Go for it, man. I'm fine with that. But I don't think it's unfair to judge him based on his first 16 career starts. That's a whole season, damn it. Over 2 years. That's enough to judge whether it's Matt Nagy or not. Because Mitchell Trubisky, as shitty as he might be, possibly, he still did fine and won football games. Yes, with the defense that gave him a short field and a lot of pick sixes, but he still had through 6 touchdown passes against the Bucks. Yeah. Justin Fields, what's the most? What has he done? Like, he runs well, and again, this is the problem: is everything is not clicking. Everything is not clicking. It's not just Justin Fields, obviously. It's the line, but it's not just the line. It's not just the play calling. It's also Justin Fields. And
Yes.
I don't buy excuses. Excuses are they're weak, man. He knows it too. He's not making excuses for himself. Fans can go ahead and do that. And that's good. Feel free. I'm not. And so I'm entitled to also believe that I believe he can be better. And I don't know what it is, if it's PTSD because he's been hit enough. Does he have the Jay Cutler twitch after the first half against the Giants and their Mike Bart's offense? I don't know. But in the end, it has to be better. And you can't miss wide open guys in the NFL. And he missed wide open. That game is over if he just a nice little teardrop to a tight end. But no, it's the tight end's fault. He's not fast enough. That's why he didn't hit his tight end, because tight end's not fast enough. You know your personnel, dude. You know how fast your guys are. It's
You're
not
protecting the domer. Just admit it. You're protecting the domer.
No, it wasn't Kmet. It was the other guys. The reason why that Justin Fields missed a throw that's for basically me to the wall is because tight end was too slow. In the end, I blame Tony La Russa. It's his fault anyway.
Yes.
So,
everything is Tony's fault.
Just because I hate excuses, man. I hate excuses. It's shit weak dick stuff, and I don't like excuses. Yeah, I know that shit's bad with the line, but find a way. Other quarterbacks throughout history have figured out a way behind bad offensive lines to still get the job done. And this defense deserves better. This defense has been fantastic. Oh, yep, it was a backup tight end. Oh, well, I guess it's not Justin Fields' fault that he missed a guy that was 4 feet away.
I think Yump said it best.
Yeah, KB loves Justin Fields. JF1, KB23. In the end, we all know that it's Tony La Russa's fault anyway.
Yes, so it's all Tony's fault. But my prediction is, to be honest with you, I don't see Justin Fields playing all 16 games this season.
Yeah, no.
I think he's going to get bloodied and battered.
I didn't think he was going to survive the Washington game against one of the worst defenses in football. Yeah.
You're going up against Belichick? Oh, boy.
Yeah, this is going to be a Monday Night Football disaster. And maybe they'll make adjustments. But, again, when you get your opportunities, you can't throw the ball at their toes.
Right.
Lead your, he had the pass to Pettis was gorgeous. When I did Pettis' first game touchdown, plus 2,800. That was awesome. But then, the throws to Mooney's on his break. It's just there are moments where you're like, God dang it, you don't have that many problems if you just hit this. If you make these two throws right here,
yeah.
But he misses those throws too, and again, it goes on. It'll propagate. I mean, again, it's beating a dead horse at this point, because people are going to make excuses for him, and some people are going to turn on him. I'm not turning on him by any means. I just expect better, and I'm not going to make excuses for him. He needs to be better. We
want him to succeed. Just like the same thing with Trubisky. Yep. We wanted Trubisky to succeed. We wanted Big Dick Nick to succeed. We wanted the Red Rifle to succeed.
Oh, Ginger Ninja.
The Ginger Ninja, yes.
Yeah. But here, toss it out to Trubisky, who beat Tom Brady on Sunday. But anyway,
yes.
That again,
and Tom Brady not happy on the sidelines.
Justin Fields is more talented than Mitchell Trubisky. There's I don't think there's even a question on that. So, it has to be better. It has to be better all the way across the board. Other than defense is playing its ass off. Special teams, other than stupid muff punts, my God.
That's sad and pathetic. That really is.
But you have to, I want to see results. Again, I don't feel like I feel like every week has been regression, not progression. And if you think that this has been progression, I'm not sure we're looking at the same things. That's what I'll think, because I feel like he's gotten worse every single start, other than his legs. His legs are incredible. And I don't understand why the Bears aren't running an offense more predicated to like a Lamar Jackson style with him in the first place. But maybe it's because they're afraid of the contact. I don't know.
I think part of that decision comes down to the offensive line too, because I watched a little bit of the Baltimore New York Giants game yesterday, and you got some pulling guards on that Baltimore team. Those guys can fire out and move. Don't have that with the Bears at all.
No, but you got the accuracy issues, which is so weird because I was told that Fields has great accuracy.
Yeah,
it really hasn't been very accurate.
Spo. God bless you, Spo.
That's true. If he'd have signed Bryce Harper, Justin Fields would still be on All-Pro.
Yes,
with Manny Machado as his wide receiver. So again, I get a little bit upset. I was really, really frustrated because losing to the Washington Commanders is just like, it's rock bottom to me. I don't.
The Commodores are the commies.
Plus the Carson Wentz, for God's sakes, with a broken finger. Okay,
Yeah.
Everything needs to be fixed. And again, it is year one. They got $123 million in cap space in the offseason. That's great, but how do you develop a quarterback? How do you develop an offense? How do you develop any kind of flow if everything is broken? And everything feels broken offensively right now from top to bottom, whether it's the wide receiving core, which is mediocre, not getting as much separation as they should, or just they can't. Whether it's the offensive line, whether it's Cole Kmet, who is a pretty fine blocker, but he's just nowhere to be found. I was expecting him to breakout season, and he's been so it's got to be better across the board. And
there's one other thing I'll say about the Bears. The Bears are on the precipice of having something happen that hasn't happened since the 1920s. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but there is no doubt that by the end of this, as a matter of fact, it was yesterday, I believe, if the Packers would have won yesterday, they would have overtaken the Bears for the most victories all time in the NFL.
So they'll eventually do it.
So yeah, they'll eventually do it. Imagine the meatball response once the Packers tweet that they have the most victories in NFL history over the Bears. Think about what's coming.
Well, I'm actually getting a kick out of it. You want to talk about knee-jerk reaction. At least we've seen enough of this to at least we're allowed to be a little bit pessimistic. Packer fans are already calling for Aaron Rodgers to be traded, for the Jordan Love era to start, and for LaFleur to be fired. I'm like, you guys are 3-3, man. But I love watching it. Don't get me wrong.
I'm all for the Jordan Love era.
Yeah, let's bring it on. Let's start that thing tomorrow if we can. Hell, let's go.
Exactly.
I watched him enough in college to know how shitty he really is. You want to talk about accuracy issues? Justin Fields is William Tell when it comes to he's Robin Hood shooting the apple off of someone's head and then shooting an arrow through the arrow when it's compared to Jordan Love. Jordan Love is seriously horrible. And his senior year, half of his touchdowns came against UNLV and San Jose State. I think it was like 10 of them. He threw like 9. I feel like he threw like 9 touchdowns against UNLV's defense that was giving up like 50 yards a game. So it was so deceptive. He's not good. So I would love to start that. But let's go, with that, speaking of living in the past, when the Bears were first starting out in the early 1900s, there was a World War I that occurred. And that happened to be part of the plot narrative from a film that just came out from David O. Russell, Amsterdam, starring Christian Bale, Mark David Washington. Go through this.
Margot Robbie.
You got
Hubba Hubba.
You got Robert De Niro. You got
Michael Shannon.
Mike
Myers with a great off-character role.
Oh, absolutely. Glass eye salesman / spy.
Yes.
Anna Taylor-Joy, who's awesome. And you've got look at this cast list. Chris Rock, Rami Malek,
Chris Rock in a great role.
Zoe Saldana, Timothy Oliphant. So we both saw it. Ed Begley Jr.'s in it for a second. Come on.
Yes.
So again, if you don't know what the plot is, the plot itself is basically a group of 3 friends who basically get caught up. They meet during World War I in a hospital after they are both, the 2 guys are wounded. John David Washington and Christian Bale are wounded. Christian Bale gets his eye shot out. And so they're recovering, and she's a nurse who actually collects the shrapnel, as in does art with the shrapnel. And they become like a triad of really close friends.
A trio, inseparable trio.
And then this fast forwards to 1933, and they get caught up in what's called the business plot, which is a true story, actually, of an attempt using the same kind of concepts and theories that they used in Italy with Mussolini and with Hitler and Germany, an attempted coup on Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And it was so they're caught up in this whole crazy thing. Christian Bale's a doctor with a glass eye. She's a nurse. Margot Robbie's a nurse, and then John David Washington is a lawyer. And so it became a box office bomb. It made 97 million or lost 97 million, I guess, for him. I thought it was pretty good. What did you think? What were your thoughts? I personally, like I said, I'd go see it again. I enjoyed it, but what did you think?
I liked it. It wasn't a bad movie. I don't think it deserved to be a quote unquote bomb by any stretch of the imagination. I thought it was clever and original, even though hard to believe, but the story that it's based on is true.
Yeah. That's
and they provide the evidence of that in the credits.
Yep.
About the truth of the story.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the relationship between the three of them was outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge Christian Bale fan, so I don't think I've ever seen anything where I felt he did a bad job. I got the hots for Margot Robbie, so she always looks good to me on screen. Even when she's doing the weird shit with all the shrapnel and showing it off. But I really like the movie. Like I said, I thought Mike Myers and Michael Shannon, who are a shady team, if you will.
They're kind of
is that a good way to put it?
Because right, one's with the Treasury and one's with MI6 or whatever.
Yes. Were really well played, especially Michael Shannon can play anything. I mean, he's been all over the spectrum with his characters.
He's great. He has a great role in Bullet Train.
Yes.
Yes. Really, yep.
And don't ever forget his role in Revolutionary Road with Leo and Kate Winslet.
Oh, I left out Taylor Swift, by the way. Sorry about that.
Yes, that's right. Taylor Swift is in there too for a short time.
Yeah, she.
And I have to admit, I sort of applauded at a certain point with Taylor Swift.
Yeah, she was not flat.
To start with.
So,
like I said, I applauded at one point with Taylor Swift, which is maybe the first time I ever applauded Taylor Swift. But I really liked it. I did not know it was based on a true story until the end credits.
Mm.
And that blew me away when they showed the evidence of the truth of the basic plot of the story. Now, some of the stuff with the characters obviously is made up, but the main thrust of the story itself is true, which I thought, again, I didn't know the story. I would bet almost everybody doesn't know it. And it's fascinating to watch, especially when you watch stay for the end credits if you go see it. Just to catch the evidence that this is a true story. But overall, I like the movie. And again, like I said, I'm a Christian Bale and Margot Robbie fan. So, I would like to sit through 2 hours of her taking a bath per se, but I don't see that happening.
Amsterdam actually this past weekend, actually didn't do too poorly. It made a couple million more, so it's
good.
It's eating into that flop, but basically it did. It got bad review. It got some bad reviews. Again, it's so weird. It's not a terrible movie, but I think the box office issues can also be. But nothing made money that weekend. Lyle Crocodile made nothing, and not while the Crocodile movie was like in twice as many movie theaters as this was, and made only $10 million. But it did. It was made. It is the convoluted plot. It's difficult. I mean, it got 34 fresh rating from critics. I guess people are saying it's too busy of a plot. There's just too much going on, which I get.
Yeah, you do have to pay attention during the movie, and there are points where I can see where people would go, "What?" But but you do need to pay attention. It's not like going to see Independence Day where you're just waiting for the next spaceship to be blown up or something like that.
Yeah. It's an intellectual film, and I mean, again, it's not for everybody. I can understand. I can totally understand why people didn't like it either, though. I don't judge people for not liking it. Like I really could. I do see it. I just personally, I had fun with it. I mean, the glass eye stuff is cracking me up, and
yes,
just Christian Bale and the what he does to his body for a role is just insanely impressive. And again, I love that he's a gem. We're so lucky to have someone of his talent acting in film today. And so, that's great, but I do understand that. I mean, it's not like it could be worse. Like, here's the irony, right? Amsterdam makes $2.8 million last weekend, right? And then a giant bag of horse feces, like Halloween Ends, makes $40 million.
And it sounds like, from what I have not seen Halloween Ends, but it sounds like the way that it ends, evil does not die that night.
It is so awful. I mean, the last couple have been so bad. It's like I can't even. It's almost like is it ostrich poop or is it dog poop? Like, it's just all poop. It's terrible. That made but that's. I'm sure people went to go check for themselves. So there's a name notoriety there that helps it. But again, people aren't going to see movies as much right now anyway. It's weird. It's kind of sad. The box office has just been really lagging over the last couple months in general. I know that they, Woman King, Woman King or Lyle Lyle Crocodile. Smile has been pretty popular. I've heard that's really actually a pretty good, solid thing, a good film. But Halloween Ends, you got to watch it. Just, it's almost like it's your penance for being a Michael Myers fan. You have to watch it. But
yes.
I loved his cameo. I love Michael Myers' cameo in the movie. I'm glad that he showed for a couple minutes.
I was hoping he'd break into some Austin Powers, but he didn't.
That was just wow. But again, Amsterdam, give it a shot, check it out, and tell me what I'm curious. You can tell us what you think too once you see it, if you see it.
Can I respond to a couple questions Brian posted?
Sure, absolutely.
The first one is, I just watched Independence Day to watch Vivica's stripper friend get blown up.
Yep.
Brian, I absolutely agree with you. That's one of the highlights in the movie for me too. And I would also like to have that happen to certain people in Section 108. But and then the other one is, was it better than Batman and Robin? I think Attack of the Killer Tomatoes and Plan 9 from Outer Space was better than Batman and Robin.
That's having seen obviously both. That's a tough question, Brian. To be honest, I mean, Michael Myers' suit doesn't have nipples, so. But
this is true.
It could have been pretty cool, but in the end, this is the kind of the interesting part too, is that now that they finished this trilogy, they the ownership rights to the franchise now revert back to the I believe the original producers. So whatever they want to do with this franchise, I don't think they're going to give anything back to Rob Zombie, but I think you could probably pause for a couple years, maybe half a decade, and then come back and revisit this again, possibly, but not with Laurie Strode. A whole new version of this kind of tale, or you just let it really actually die. But let's be honest, in Hollywood, if there's money to be made, and when a giant pile of turd like Halloween Ends can still make $40 million in its opening weekend, I don't think you're going to see them stop doing this.
Right. So how do you tell when a series has reached its end?
You don't. No,
well, when the last movie doesn't make money.
Oh yeah, that's when they put an end to it. So
yep.
We should see how that one plays out. But we've got some good stuff coming down the line as far as films are concerned. But if you guys are a TV fan, I'm just going to touch on this real quick and then we can wrap up. But if you, and I keep getting them mixed up, by the way. First off, the She-Hulk season finale was absolutely freaking hysterical. So many good jokes, so much meta, and Kevin Feige just wears it. It's great. So that was a good finale if you've been watching that show. But the Lord of the Rings series, the Rings of Power, the billion-dollar franchise as it is, was fantastic. From start to finish, the season, it gets started, takes a little time to get introduced to Middle Earth. The plot is fantastic, but it's hard for a season finale to really nail it. And Rings of Power nails it with the end of the first season. A fantastic finish. And that takes place in the second age, I believe, of the Middle Earth. And so this takes place a lot earlier than Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit.
Hobbit, right. And you got that, and then you got on the other hand, you've got the House of the Dragons on HBO, and I keep getting these two mixed up because they're both epic series based on two of my favorite franchises, and that one's 200 years before the events of Game of Thrones, and that just hit episode 9 last night with another fantastic episode. And those two series, if you've gotten a chance, if you're big fans, one is more brutal and gory than the other with more boobs, but both of them are absolutely fantastic period pieces, if you will, for a different time period, whether it's the Middle Earth era with the elves and whatnot, or Game of Thrones with knights and dragons. But absolutely fantastic. Both of those seasons, I highly recommend it. I recommend you'd be better off sitting down and watching binge watching those than you would Halloween Ends. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah, all I've been watching this week is basically sports.
Mm-hmm.
Watching the Bears Thursday night mess and playoff baseball. RIP the Dodgers, the Mariners. Hey, at least the Mariners fans got 2 games for the price of 1 on Saturday. That was some intense baseball. But my TV viewing is I have a bunch of stuff I need to go back and binge watch. She-Hulk's one of them.
So good.
Moon Knight is another one.
Oh, that's really good. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. The Star Wars series and Endor.
Oh, that's been very good too. I forgot to mention that. I apologize, Terezi and Josh Nelson. That's also been this most recent episode, The Big Mission. Great stuff. Great stuff.
Yeah. And if you don't catch it, Terezi and Sox Machine Josh do a Southside Point of View podcast, generally on Saturday mornings, where they discuss the latest episode of any Star Wars series. They've done it for Skywalker. They've been doing it for for Mandalorian. They've been doing it for all Star Wars stuff because they are 2 Star Wars geeks.
Mm-hmm.
Highly recommend to watch that too. I haven't watched any for Andor because I haven't watched a series and I don't want spoilers.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you'll enjoy that. And another thing too, by the way, I gotta give him a shout out. If you guys haven't been paying attention, our dude Yumper has been releasing a horror film a day through our YouTube page, and they've been fantastic, man. The dude is really putting in some time. Give those all a look.
Yes.
He's really busted his butt to create some fun stuff, and I know he's been having some fun with it too. But Yumper's been breaking down a horror movie, 31 days, so 1 per day, every day for the entire month of October. So make sure you check that out on our YouTube page. If you're watching us on YouTube, all you got to do. Why did I say YouTube? That sounded weird. YouTube. You can go and you can actually find the videos right here. I'm looking at them right now. And this most recent episode from Yumper, I believe. Let me just. It was 31 days. This was Secret Window with Johnny Depp. Was one for 23 hours ago that he released, which is a great. The corn. Frailty. He did session 9. He's done Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I know we've got, he did Identity, which is a good one.
He did one of my favorites, Phantasm.
Yeah, fantastic, right? The tall guy, right? Or what?
Yes, that's the tall man. That's the one with the tall man.
Yep. Stir of Echoes, which is a good one. That was a Chicago one too, based in Chicago. 30 Days of Night, Gothica, Silver Bullet, great one with Corey Haim, rest in peace. Pumpkinhead, which I think was the first one he did. I feel like Pumpkinhead was one of the first.
I think so. That sounds about right.
But
and I'm hoping, and let me say this up front. We do not know what he's doing next. He's taking the ball and running with this. There are a couple movies I'm hoping we see in the rest of this month. I would hope to see Night of the Living Dead, Fright Night, are 2. Lost Boys would be such an easy thing to say, but I think he might dive a little deeper than just going with Lost Boys.
He's been doing some pretty more fringe ones too, which is great. I love it. I need my Psycho Gorman.
Would be awesome.
Psycho Gorman needs to happen. I know he's going to do that for me, but it's been great to watch. Again, the new one for today was The Prophecy that came about 10 hours ago. Already had 50 views. We got 315 views for Frailty, which is fantastic. Yumper bringing in all the clicks for us. Like we'll have 3 people watch our show, and then Yuppers gets 800 for. He'll do a recap of.
Well, I don't blame him. I'd rather watch Yumper's show than watch our show. All our show is me yelling about shit,
and then me just getting mad at Justin Fields apparently. And I want to make sure I'm clear on this before we leave. I'm not mad at Justin Fields. I don't hate Justin Fields. I love Justin Fields. I want him to succeed. I'm just right now. I'm not Again, it's me. I'm a pessimist. I see it. I'm just not super stoked right now, and I'm disappointed with. I've seen players in worse situations do more, and I want to see more. So I will be fine. But he just, you know what cures that? Performing. So whatever.
Yeah.
But
And I was going to say one other thing on the White Sox manager search. I would not be surprised for the announcement to come next week.
Mm-hmm.
Because you should have those couple days. They don't want announcements during the playoffs and during the World Series, but that couple day window leading up to the World Series, you'll generally hear announcements for teams announcing their new managers, if they come to contract agreements with players or extensions, whatever it may be. You'll hear a lot of that then. So I fully anticipate the White Sox naming their new manager in that window before the World Series. And frankly, I would want it done sooner than that, to be completely honest with you, because what is it? A week after the World Series is when the owner or the GM meetings are.
The winter meetings, yeah.
Well, the winter meetings are in early December.
Yeah, the GM meetings are like coming up.
Right, and that's where the groundwork is laid for a lot of trades that occur right before or at the winter meetings. And that's also where a lot of groundwork is laid for free agents as well. So I would hope that they'd have a manager in place by that time so that you can get an idea of what kind of roster you want out there and where you think the holes are and everything else. And try and pursue those.
I'm actually a little bit shocked. I'm watching, obviously I've got my one eye on fantasy football in this Broncos Chargers game that's going on right now. I'm absolutely stunned right now that Melvin Gordon has 3 carries. They've run the ball 5 times in the first half. Denver's run the ball 5 times this ball game. Total.
Russell Wilson's got to air that arm out,
I mean, 10 for 11 for 116 yards, but I mean, 5 carries for 17 yards. I mean, that's not – eventually, isn't the whole point is to keep the offense off the field for LA, for the Chargers? That offense, you keep it off the field as long as possible, but –
yes.
I don't know. Yeah. So anyway, side note, make sure you guys also, before we get out here, make sure you guys tune in next week. This next week's episode for Sunday, or whatever it be, Sunday or Monday for next week, Yumper and Swole, they're going to be doing a breakdown of the Halloween franchise. And that'll be on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Yumper is going to have a blast listening to Swole break down his feelings of Halloween Ends. I'm pretty sure watching Halloween Ends is somewhere between getting a root canal
or a colonoscopy
or having someone stick their pinky into your urethra. So
yeah,
being a model for a Maplethorpe. And so I think it should be a good one. So make sure you tune into that as well. Give those guys some love. Give those guys a follow at Yumper and Swole at the show.
And can I say one more thing about that? Do you remember on Thursday night when Svo went and saw it, he sent us a text. I'm so excited for you to see the first 10 minutes of this movie. Mm-hmm. Then an hour and a half later, we get, this movie was horseshit. And I really hope that in their podcast next week, he breaks down how it went from the first 10 minutes being so awesome to get to where it got.
I will say this, though. There's a part where a guy gets his tongue cut out. And I thought that was funny. I laughed pretty loud at that part, but it's just so bad. Yeah. So you guys got to tune in for that one because we know Swole loves Halloween. It's like his favorite, one of his favorite franchises, if not his favorite. So it's like it almost is like the feeling that you felt after seeing The Last Jedi for the first time. Is that yeah? But
or the Attack of the Clones, or the Phantom Menace.
Oof.
Yeah.
There's Jerry.
Even though I will say Revenge of the Sith, I liked Revenge of the Sith.
Loved it. Yeah, me too.
I know a lot of people shit on it, but I loved Rogue One.
Wow, that's what Andor is. And if you loved Rogue One, Andor is your show.
Because I know who I can't think of the pilot's name, but it's the pilot. It's not the pilot, but the soldier who's the main lead in Andor.
Andor.
Yeah.
Cassian Andor. Yeah.
Cassie, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I couldn't think of his first name.
Yeah, he's fantastic. I mean, and again, it's Mon Mothma. You're getting that kind of she's being developed as a character as well. So it definitely worth a look if you're a big fan of Rogue One. That's a good one.
Yes.
So for me, I know we're gonna put a bow on this thing too. So make sure you guys tune in. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. We have a Bears game on a Monday night to break down for you guys. We'll have 2 Bears games really to break down for you guys. We'll also have some postseason stuff going on. We'll also probably there's Russell Wilson just throwing it downfield, and that ball is caught. Okay, that works. And
why aren't they caught? Oh, it looks like they're out of timeouts.
They're out of timeouts. They got to get all the way. Those poor linemen are about to puke. But,
yes, exactly.
Yards and get down and not die. Get
out of bounds. There you go.
We'll have some movie stuff this week. Black Adam comes out in theaters, getting great reviews.
Yes,
should be very interesting to see how that plays out as well. And
Pierce Brosnan looks really good as Dr. Fate.
I've seen a lot of positive reviews on that one, so I'm super stoked. That comes out on Friday. I got my ticket already bought.
You mean they did something right in the DC universe besides the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy?
I think so. I mean, Aquaman I thought was badass too, but
okay, fair enough. Aquaman was very
Wonder
good.
Woman 1 and Wonder Woman 1, not WW 84. That was really bad. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. So we'll be able to talk about that next week or in a couple weeks as well. So for me, I hope you guys have a great week. Enjoy spooky season. I do think it's really funny. I can't on Twitter. I can't tell you.
That reminds me. We'll be back Halloween night.
Oh yeah, October 31st. Yeah.
It'll be 2 weeks. Yeah.
That'll be our return. So
we might have to go a little bit later so I can feed all the little trick-or-treaters that'll show up at my house. I think we had 7 last year.
At least, are you the cool house? Because I like to think of us as a cool house. We go to Costco and we buy regular size candy bars. We give the regular candy bars out. So if you come to our place,
for those of you kids, I will tell you what the first 20 items that I will give out will be. I fortunately got suckered into buying 10 candy bars each from Little Miss Shortstop and Little Sis Shortstop. So I had to buy 10 candy bars each from them. So there are 20 World's Finest candy bars that will be given out first at my house.
There you go. First come, first serve.
Well, unless there's like some almond ones, and it might get reduced because I'll keep the almond ones for myself.
Those are such a treat. I love the almond chocolate bars. Those are fun. We would do those fundraisers when I was a kid, and I'd eat half of the bars myself. I was so diabetes. But I do appreciate you guys coming on. We always do. So we'll see you in a couple weeks, and then Pete obviously is going to give you his final thoughts. But be nice to everybody as best you can. And this is the time of year. We're getting to that time of year now where it starts getting a little cooler outside. People's anxiety around the holiday season starts upping a little bit. Be attentive to people's needs and understand that everyone's going through something. So, and nobody's perfect. And other than that, thank you guys again for tuning in. And Pete, why don't you give us your final thoughts and take us on out?
All right. As I've said before, thank you for your time. The greatest gift you can give anyone is your time. And we thank you so much for giving us some of your time and watching and listening to our ranting and raving about the Chicago sports world and movies in general. Don't forget to tune in next week to listen to Yumper and Svo, especially listen to Svo break down his love of Halloween and how angry he is at how this last movie turned out. Aside from that, again, thank you for your time. Be nice to everyone. As Fid said, the holiday season is fast approaching, so be a little kind to people. Even if you think they're Jerry Reinsdorf bootlickers, you could just say, hey, I disagree with you. Aside from that, thank you very much, everyone. And now I'm going to turn it over to the Tainted Glove, the NASCAR fan, the man who makes the rest of us look like mentally inferior people, the one, the only. Yeah, dog, take it away. And aloha.